the thing that runs right through the centre of every single project that we do is actually creativity, or even more importantly than that, more specifically than that, it's stories. Everything we do, regardless of whether it's about arts, or maths, or science, or engineering, or history, or whatever we do, starts with a story. We create future-facing challenges that are informed by a heritage past. And by using that informed heritage past, we create our future solutions. We took some money from the RAE, and we took some money from our own research, because what we do is when we work with schools, we work in essence as much as we can for free, if not for profit. But when we work with businesses, that's where our profit comes in, and that allows us to underwrite and underpin the things we do for schools, and that allows us to do it at no cost. But also some of the engineers, because we had an enormously diverse range of engineers, geotechnical, absolutely everybody from all the way across the world. Some of those organisations were really happy to put their name to what we were doing, because it was in a lot of very public spaces. We went into every library in Norfolk. In essence, we try and access money in a way such that what we're giving to school is, if not for free, it's heavily underwritten. I think about 85% of what we do for schools is free. It's no charge whatsoever. The rest of the time, schools commission us directly. In the 9 years I've been working with, we work with every school we've ever worked with at least once a year still. Some of the schools we work with, for the 9 years, we've worked with them 7 times a year, every year for 9 years. People seem to quite dig what we do, and I'm very thankful for that, because I'm rubbish at everything else. The students that we work with 50 students, were all students who had been permanently excluded from mainstream education for either learning or behavioural difficulties. Either they were permanently excluded or had been deemed as needs. These folks had no aspiration whatsoever, very little literacy skills, had no training or interest in either photography or engineering, or in fact doing anything at all. But they just loved this. We had an amazing time, and where that came from was because of the creativity. Instead of focusing on what they couldn't do, what we did was dial into what they wanted to do and what they could do, in a space and in a way whereby they could literally create their own understanding. And they could create their own understanding by accessing arts and creativity to look at something in a different way. Excusing the pun, what they were able to do is focus in on those things that they wanted to know about and kind of blur out everything else around that thing. And what was really interesting about that was by creating their own understanding, they actually created something that allowed other people to understand it better too. We had this giant travelling exhibition, and people were coming over all the time and looking at these photographs and thinking, oh, and we'd say to us all the time, I've never really seen it like that before. And a lot of people use the expression blot on the landscape, but not only were they able to turn something that is traditionally deemed to be potentially a necessary evil, but they turned it into something beautiful. But that beauty brought through the understanding, brought through some of the learning. But they've returned to mainstream education, and a couple of them have applied for engineering apprenticeships. One of them has gone on to do a photography apprenticeship with one of the guys that works with us on a part-time basis. They have turned themselves around, and that's because we gave them a different learning objective, and we gave them a different learning approach. And that learning approach was to access it on the level that they wanted to be interested at first. And then they created their knowledge, the indelibility of that knowledge afterwards. And I think if it can work for those kids, and it really, really did, then as far as we're concerned, then it could work for your kids too. Absolutely could work for your kids too. So today what we'd very much like to do is we'd like to talk, we'd like to chat with you and see if there is ways in which we could work together. Well, the thing that I understand, the reason we were invited here today, apart from being a cheap source of fireworks, is that actually creativity runs very strongly through everything that you do. And not only is creativity the backbone of everything we do, but actually it's the point of what we do. Because what we don't do is we don't give people answers. As I said, we don't do essence, we just do doing. We give people a question and we ask them to create that answer themselves. So I think that perhaps today we can chat and spend some time together. What I'd quite like to do is to see if we can build a bridge, a really important bridge, a sustainable, useful bridge that links what they need to know with who they want to be. And if you can use that bridge and make that bridge sustainable and tie it all together with the fantastic and rich and diverse nature of the heritage around it, just as we do all the time.
Sorry, not you, it's nice.
Yeah, thank you. First presentation ever.